Our board candidate forum this evening. We are excited to present this opportunity for you guys to take part and participate, and we are doing this in cooperation with our local DNEA chapter. And at this time, I'd like to introduce our DNEA president, Azure Henwood.
Good evening. I would first of all like to say thank you to our candidates for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and visit and share with us this evening. And also thank you to the community for the great turnout that we have this evening. A few things I'd like to share with you this evening is at the back of the room here we have a table with note cards and writing utensils for you. If there is a topic that spurs some further discussion, or something that you would like to know more about, please consider going back and writing your question on a card. And as time permits, we will do our very best to make sure that we can get several questions into the candidates. We do have some already predetermined questions that we'll be asking this evening, and we would just like to give you the opportunity as the community to ask your questions as well. So they'll be happy to help you back here at the back table with that. Just to let you know a little bit about how this process will work this evening. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to introduce themselves and kind of explain a little bit about why they are running for the Board of Education. And then when we start the question and answer time, each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each question. And every candidate will have the opportunity to answer every question. So just to kind of let you know, that's how that format will look this evening. We are very excited about who is going to be facilitating for us this evening. So at this time, I would like to welcome Dave Kirkbride. He is the South Central Kansas UNISERV Director for KNEA.
Thank you, Azure. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's good to have a full house here. I'm going to be rotating the questions so that every board member has the same opportunity to be either first or last or in between. And I'll start with Andy over here when we start the questioning, and then I'll go with Justin next, and then Mark, and then Rick. The first question is, each candidate has, as Azure explained, 3 minutes to introduce yourself and explain why you've decided to run for the US 260 Board of Education. Andy, you're first.
So usually I get to go last being Watkins, but we did it a little bit different, so that's okay. So in this case, it makes it interesting. So I grew up in Kingman, a small community west of Wichita. My mom was a public school teacher, retired from the school district there. My dad was a local attorney, involved locally as a coach, scout leader, you name it. If it was an activity I was involved with, he was a part of it. So they set a good example for me to get involved as a kid, and so that contributed somewhat to me being here today. My wife and I were high school sweethearts. She's in the back, trying not to make you look at her. And we ended up going to K-State. She followed me there. I was a few years older than her at school. And anyways, we got married after moving down to Independence, Kansas. We were down there about 8 years. I was involved in the community there, served on lots of nonprofit boards and different committees throughout the community, and served there as well. And my wife actually was a public school teacher down there for 3 years as well. So it is definitely education runs in our family, and have a definite appreciation for it. While in Independence, I finished up my MBA at Pittsburgh State, and also at the same time finished graduate school banking degree through Madison, Wisconsin. And then after that, we started having kids, had our first child, and wanted to get closer to our family, and so we moved to the Derby area in 2011. And over that time, I've continued to be involved in the community. And through our church, helping with coaching soccer, basketball teams, and also my wife has been involved in our church as well through the women's ministry. Church has been a big part of our lives. I'm also involved in the Chamber of Commerce, have attended meetings regularly and connected with the local business community as well. And so anyways, my wife and I have 4 kids, and so that's really the big reason for us wanting for me to get involved with this. And I feel like we can make a difference through that. I think I can also bring some experience through my board involvement in other organizations. I've served anywhere from treasurer to president, chairman of those organizations, and have worked through many different challenges as well. So I think I can bring those experiences because I know, we'll have challenges that we face over the next 4 years, and so I'm hoping to bring some leadership through that as well. I think we really need to engage parents, teachers, community members, students, and taxpayers through the campaign process. I've been able to do that, talk with a lot of people, and have gathered a lot of feedback. So I think I can also engage people and get people involved as well.
Yes, I can. We now have, sorry to interrupt because this is a great flow and I hate to interrupt, but we do now have 4 board members present this evening, so we will have to call the meeting to order. So I'll welcome Matthew Joyce up to take care of that.
Sorry. I had a union meeting I had to go to tonight. Go ahead and call meeting to order. There'll be no business this evening, and I'd like to appoint Andy as our recorder. If you said he was here? Very good. Would you mind being our recorder? It'll be, like I said, there'll be no business carried on tonight. It's just there's 4 of us present. We have to call the meeting to order. Thank you. 6:38.
Okay, Justin, you're next.
Okay, hi, my name is Justin Kippenberger, and I was born in Wichita and raised in Derby. I've spent most of my life here. After high school, I joined the Marine Corps and did some time in there as an infantryman, and then after my time in the military, I went to K-State as well, like Andy, and my wife, I met her there. We got married when we were at Kansas State, and I received my bachelor's degree there, and then we have 5 kids. They range in age from 8, 5, 4, and I have 2 22-year-old boys, and so they really keep us pretty busy. So it's been kind of crazy, and I did get my wife's blessing to be here, so I'm not sure how, but she did agree to this. So we're also members of South Rock Christian Church here in Derby, and we really enjoy our time there. And for the last 11 years, I have worked for the Department of Defense in various fields from human resources to manpower to management analysis. Currently, I'm a management analyst with the DoD, and I oversee the manning and the resourcing of a specific agency. I have two of my oldest kids that currently attend Park Hill in kindergarten and in 2nd grade, and I have 3 more that will eventually be following here shortly, which is kind of what prompted me to want to get involved early. I found out about the opening pretty late to the game, but I went ahead and jumped in. Like I said, my wife said it was okay. I decided to join the race. I'm very excited to not only assist with the regular duties of the board, but I want to actively seek out areas of improvement or areas of need where I feel like I can help out. Most importantly, though, I want to help ensure that we're always keeping the children and our students as our #1 focus in the decisions that we make, during our time here on the board.
Okay, Mark.
So my name is Mark May. I've been a Derby resident since 2007. I'm born and raised in the Wichita area. Common theme going on here, K-State, purple. I actually attended both Kansas State and Manhattan Christian College, receiving my degree from MCC in Christian Ed and Psychology. I have the privilege to be married to a wonderful wife of 29 years, Tammy. Again, keeping in a theme, 4 or 5, we have 8. It's not a contest.
What do you have, Rick?
Rick, the pressure is on. We have a unique setting as far as our children. We do have 4 that are biological. They're all ours. They're biological, and we have a sibling set of 4 that we adopted in 2007 that we felt called to open our home to. Of the kids, we do have to their special need. 4 of the kids are in the school district, 1 at the high school, 2 at Derby North, and 1 at El Paso. My personal history as far as with the district, for the last 1.5 to 2 years, I've been on multiple committees. We have a theme in our house. We call it see a need, meet a need, be a servant, think of others. I try to exemplify that by getting involved. So I've been on the district finance, I have the privilege of being asked to be on the district finance committee. I've been involved with site council, both Derby North and with El Paso. And then was also part of the transgender task force. So I feel like I've been involved with the district and have my roles. I'm also privileged. My wife does wonderful volunteer work at El Paso as part of the PTO there. So I feel like I offer a tremendous perspective as far as what's going on in the district. I'm kind of focusing in on 3 themes or three areas. 2 kind of go hand in hand: communication, transparency, and the 3rd, fiscal responsibility. Having been a business leader, I'm in sales management and run sales teams, anywhere from 4 up to 30. I've been responsible for budgets that in the millions. I feel like I can bring some leadership and perspective, and that leadership comes from that of being a servant leader. So I thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening.
Okay, Rick?
Yeah, I remember pushing my button. I always read. My name's Rick Coleman. I was actually born and raised in Ohio. I graduated and enlisted in the U.S. Air Force and was stationed at McConnell in 1991. I made Derby my home in 1995 and never looked away. I served in the Air Force for 8 years and have been in business aviation since 1998. I've been married for 14 years to my lovely wife, wherever she moved to, right there. We have 4 kids, 5th grader, 3rd grader, a kindergartner, and a 3-year-old, 3 of which are in the Swain School District. My main reason for joining the board is to serve my community and to continue to make strides towards improving the communication, transparency, reliability, and consistency of the school board. More importantly, to be a voice that will speak up when the federal government oversteps its boundaries and tries to tell us how we should run our district. I've served on the board for a year and I've done that with my very best. I'm reapplying and greatly appreciate the opportunity to serve a full term on the board. So what qualifies me for the job? Other than my youngest won't graduate until 2032. 4 years ago we moved, which changed our school. My deeper involvement in the district really fell into my lap. I was attending site council meetings and the principal at the time approached me and asked me if I wanted to be on the site council committee. He soon approached me after that and said that the district was starting a new finance committee, which I was also honored to do. I started regularly attending Board of Education meetings approximately a year and a half ago. A little over a year ago, I had the opportunity, after Tom Ostringer retired from the board, to apply, be interviewed, and appointed to the board. Since then, I've served on multiple committees in the district and currently serve on the Swaney Site Council Committee, District Finance Committee, Superintendent's Council, Athletic Review Committee, Classified Staff Meet and Confer, I Make a Difference Award Committee, Strategic Planning Committee, and the Teacher Evaluations Committee. I have a flexible work schedule and strong support system at home that makes me available for most, if not all, the many meetings and events that should be expected of a truly dedicated member of the Board of Education. I have to tell the other candidates, it's not 2 hours every other week. Thank you for this opportunity.
Okay, now we start the 1-minute questions. First one is, and we'll start with Justin this time. The first question is, what do you see as the greatest problem facing public education today, both in our district and in the state of Kansas?
So in my opinion, I would say the biggest problem that faces education, probably universally, would be funding constraints. In a perfect world where funding was not a concern, we wouldn't have a need for our teachers, we're to be sharing spaces and sharing classrooms, sharing art teachers across different schools as well as nurses, and the schools would have all the supplies and the curriculum materials, that they needed to be successful. We could improve on our teacher pay scales, and as well as deferred maintenance wouldn't even be a thing to worry about. But since that isn't a reality, it's vital for us to ensure that we are efficiently and effectively executing within the means we are given, pending any possibility of new funds. In this fiscally constrained environment that we are in, funding will always be a concern, however. More importantly, though, is how we're able to manage that concern, which will ultimately determine how successful we are in the school district.
Okay, Mark?
So, at the state level, kind of echo the same sentiments, but rather, my concern is the lack of consistent funding formula or plan. I feel like the state is really put districts statewide kind of on a scramble. They're learning how to juggle, they're learning how to dodge and weave, and I really feel like our state needs to settle on a plan and provide a consistent basis by which districts can make decisions and move forward with their fiscal and local budgets, rather than guessing what might be there, what might not be there. Again, it impacts the ability for a district to operate. So at state level, I see that as a large obstacle. District level, and just stick with me on this, but I think status quo. Kind of deferring real quick to the next question as far as our strength. I think the great strength of this district is community, and I think weaknesses are our strengths pushed to a max. I think sometimes our community kind of relies on the status quo, and we don't get as much involvement as we should. Not talking football games and sports or extracurricular, but I feel like we could do more to draw our community in, and that would help our educators.
Okay, Rick?
Okay, so obviously school finance is big at the state level with the Supreme Court decision. Locally, college and career readiness and teacher equitable pay. All students should graduate from high school ready for college careers in life, prepared to pursue the future of their choosing. It's estimated that by 2020, 65% of all jobs and 92% of traditional STEM jobs will require post-secondary education and training. As far as the teachers' pay, our staff and teachers are some of the best in the state. We have one of the lowest salary structures compared to districts our size in the state, so we need to continue to bridge that gap and ensure that we retain the teachers and staff we have and be competitive enough to attract new talent.
Okay, Andy?
So I'm going to focus more on the school district since that's really where we'll have most of the impact, I think, locally. And I've got three parts to this, so I've got 51 seconds. First of all, I think we need to ensure that Derby Schools provides a quality education. I think that's what we're all here for. I know there's been challenges with some of the testing results that we've had, both as a district and throughout the state of Kansas. So I think competitively, we need to make sure that we're reaching out and really understanding how to improve those results. Facilities is also is something that we need to think strategically on a long-term basis. I think we've had some challenges maintaining our facilities with what we have, and with the proposal of new facilities, we've got to make sure that we can maintain those as well. And then finally, board communication. I think we've got to be great listeners. Even if we may not agree with what somebody says, we've got to listen and really understand where they're coming from, so that we can, possibly change our minds, possibly. But overall, I think the community wants to be heard.
Okay, the second question, we'll start with Mark. What do you feel is the district's greatest strength?
Well, obviously I've tipped my hand, but I feel like community pride. We personally, in my professional journey, our family has moved around. We lived in Lawrence for nearly 4 years and experienced a tremendous pride there, whether you were a LHS, Lawrence High School fan, or a Lawrence Free State. But just tremendous community pride, and obviously the university helped drive that as well. We see that same thing here. We had an opportunity to live in a suburb outside of Atlanta, and you just didn't have the same feel. So I think our community takes a lot of pride in the school district. Again, not just an extracurricular activity, but just in all aspects. So I think that it's something we can continue to build on, come together and find common ground in all areas, and continue to build on that moving forward.
Okay, Rick?
So, our teachers are obviously one of our biggest strengths, and also our diversity. Our teachers and staff are second to none. They truly love our kids.
I've been in every building in the district, every teacher. It's a team environment from the superintendent level down to the custodian. So I think that's a good strength, and it helps us to flex when we need help in other areas.
Okay. Andy?
So, kind of echoing some of what these guys have said, I think the biggest strength in our community is the people, from caring citizens to a great staff we have in place. I think the people are the foundation of really moving an organization forward. I think we have them. As board members, I think we need to utilize these people, citizens, as well as folks that work in the district. Some of the feedback I've received is that there's been people engaged and on committees, but sometimes that input doesn't at least feel to them like it's been utilized in some of the final decisions. So I think if we don't use that feedback totally, we need to tell them why and provide some additional explanation. But we do need to work to engage folks better, but the people are there. We just got to, I think, do a better job at engaging them.
Okay. Justin?
Well, I guess I shouldn't change the theme, so I'm going to say hands down the district's greatest strength are the people. From the many staff members involved in driving buses, serving food, assisting in other ways, to the administrators that run our school district, to the excellent teachers that we have. With 2 kids in school right now, I've had the opportunity to work with some phenomenal teachers, and I feel that those teachers have made such a positive impact on my girls' lives. These teachers spend countless extra hours ensuring that our kids are in an environment that will allow them to learn in the best possible way, and that's what it's all about in the end.
Okay. Next question. How do you see your role as a board member, as a member of the Board of Education in regard to accountability to patrons of the districts? And we'll start with Rick.
So we are elected officials. I know that's lost in the government these days, but we are supposed to be the voice of the people. So my role is to be a vessel for communications between the patrons and the district. And that's my responsibility that I don't take lightly. I visit schools, district leadership regularly to ensure I keep a finger on the pulse of the district and stand ready to answer the tough questions that the community has. It's our job to ensure that the administration hears the voice of the patron and we work to provide the services that they expect from the district.
Okay. Andy?
So, I think everyone involved is accountable. The board members are accountable, the staff's accountable. I think we all have a piece in it, right? And so, obviously, as board members, we want to be, like I said, good listeners and really understand what's going on and have a good pulse in our community. I think we really have to listen first, find out the facts, involve others in our data gathering before we make decisions. We really need to hear all the voices like I've talked about before, and then together move forward with solving whatever challenge that might be we're facing.
Okay, Justin?
If I'm elected to the board, then it is the patrons who put me there, and I owe it to them and the school district to ensure that I don't lose sight of that fact. While the board is responsible for the successful operation of the school district, they are accountable to the community who entrust them with that responsibility. So we need to ensure that we have open two-way communication that flows in order to keep the community actively involved in our board operations.
Okay, Mark?
Again, a common theme. Being an elected official, it's our duty to hear what our community and our parents are asking, saying, the input they want, but not only listen and hear, but also seek. It was mentioned just now, the two-way communication. I think that's vital. I think our district is moving in the right direction, honestly. Superintendent Bohati has moved to put a director of communication in place and has taken other steps. We need to continue to build on that. My role would be to be part of that communication effort and to ensure that I'm engaged as well at all levels with all folks and build credibility and take that feedback and bring it back in a manner that the board can use.
Okay, Rick?
Was I first on that one?
I started.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
started.
Uh,
I mean, if you give me another minute, I'll.
We'll start question number 4 with Andy. The school district is going through a bond issue with Process for Success. There are a lot of items that are being discussed that are hot topics. Despite your personal feelings on some of the items, how will you be able to help the district move forward for the success of our students and make decisions that affect the whole school district and not just a few local constituents?
So I think, as I talked about earlier, we've got to really have a pulse on what's going on with our district. But I think throughout that process, we've got to have a trustworthy and transparent process that assuming we get great feedback from the community, I think as long as that is in place and is foundational, that will help people to really understand that this decision we came to and this is how we got to is based on really the feedback from the community. Unfortunately, sometimes there's loss. There's a loss with somebody's viewpoint. They may have to get in a little bit, but I think ultimately we have to work together as a district on some of these very tough issues to do what's best with the district. But again, I think the process has to be very trustworthy and transparent when we're dealing with these tough issues.
Justin?
While I wasn't part of the committee for the Process for Success, and no bond is going to be considered perfect, the community and the committee did put a lot of hard work in during that process. The board now owes it to the community and the school district to take what we have and implement it in the most successful manner. We know there are very strong feelings from multiple sides on many different topics, and it is important that we take note of those and keep those with us as we move forward. However, we need to ensure that we do not lose sight of the task at hand, which is to utilize this possible bond in the most effective way possible. And if for some reason the bond is not able to be voted on or not approved, we need to ensure that we are right back at the drawing board. We will need to make the necessary updates and changes to get this bond back out for a vote.
Okay. Mark?
Along the same line, the current status of the Process for Success is obviously to move forward to a community vote. So again, as a elected official, it would be my responsibility to see what that community vote outcome is and to move responsibly. I think this ties back again to anything moving forward needs to be done in a transparent manner with multiple channels being utilized in how that's communicated and how further input is received. We live in a tenuous time, again, tying so many factors back to the state funding, the concerns for safety and security. Sure, I am pro-kids, pro-safety, pro-education, but again, we have to make sure we're fiscally responsible with what the community tells us we can spend.
Okay. Rick?
So, first, I'd ask you to elaborate on a few vocal constituents. I'm assuming that it's thought that I voted no on the bond because a few people talked to me. I have never and never will make a decision as a member of the Board of Education based on how I feel or my feelings. It's responsibility of the members of the BOE to be good stewards of the citizens' money. Regarding how I'm able to help the district move forward for the success of our students and district, I will continue to listen, ask the tough questions, answer the ones I can, and research what I can't. I can assure you that I have the students and the entire district's best interest in mind, and I would not be here running for the position of the board if I did not.
Okay. Justin, question 5. Our district's vision is every student, every day, preparing for the future. What does this mean to you?
Okay, well, I think this is an excellent vision for any school district to have. However, a well-written vision is only as good as the implementation plan that gets us there. This vision does, however, very closely align to some of the main points and reasons that I chose to run for school board. We, the entire school district, have to ensure that we are effectively grooming our students on a daily basis to be the best students and future adults that they can be. It is up to us to help them achieve their full potential. We need to make sure that we are adequately preparing every student with the academics and life skills needed post-graduation, be it college, jobs, military, or just life skills in general.
Mark?
So again, being a leader of a sales organization, in our industry, we talk about goals and intentionalness. In fact, we have SMART goals in place where they're specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. I think our vision, without goals, we can't accomplish our vision. And I think, to me, when I receive this vision that the district has put in place, that means we are being intentional and we are being consistent to meet those goals, that we are being taking them in a manner where they're specific, they are measurable, they're attainable, and they are relevant. I think with a vision like this, it gives us a future look. It's more than looking at more than what we have in place now as far as what does education look like in the future. It could be apprenticeships, it could be that college career pathing. Again, vision gives us goals and attainable efforts to seek.
Okay, Rick?
So, I'm a politician, so just bear with me. So I may have stolen the Every Student Every Day from Tacoma, Washington, from a conference that I attended earlier this year in Washington, D.C. And then the board added preparing for the future to it. It's a reminder to me that we have to focus on each student's education and needs at the individual level to ensure that they succeed in school, career, and in life. In 2010, the graduation rate in Tacoma was 55%. Today, they're at 85%. They did not do this on their own, but with the community support. And we need to harness that same passion here in Derby because our students are the future of our town.
Andy?
To me, every student, every day, preparing for the future. This means to me that each student has God-given abilities, strengths, and interests. They're all very unique, and I think it's our job as a school district to ensure that we help them set a firm foundation of education, especially with younger students, and then as they get older, help identify what each kid is good at. I mean, I have 4 kids, and they're all different, and so we have to make sure that we treat them uniquely and really lift them up and try to find ways for them to excel. I think it'd be all awkward if we were all the same guys, and we almost are. I mean, we're K-State guys, at least Rick's. But so see, at least Rick's different.
I'm a Buckeye, sorry.
He's a Buckeye. So we're all unique, and we have to make sure we remember that. We also need to make sure that students are prepared for 4-year degree, 2-year degree, technical programs, whatever. We've got to figure out what they're good at and help encourage them along the way.
Okay. Mark, describe the first change you would like to see enacted by the Board of Education.
So again, one of my 3 points I'm focusing on is communication, transparency, and fiscal responsibility. So one of the first changes I'd like to see is concerning the communication piece. I think we need to probably work with the state board as well, as far as changing our formats in Board of Education meetings. We need some more interaction. I've been to probably 90% of the board meetings since March of 2016, and there's been many issues brought forward, not just 1 or 2, but many things that patrons have set forward with concerns, and they stand there for 3 minutes delivering their concerns, and there's just lack of interaction. And it's all the logistics behind that, understood, but at the same time, we need to find a way that we can engage patrons and do it in a 2-way manner. That is something I believe in and I will seek to implement.
Okay, Rick?
So, one of my top things is I'd like to see the district start collaborating with the businesses in the community. After all, we are preparing students to go out into the workforce. What better way than to bring the workforce into our schools and ensure that we are providing relevant training and educational opportunities to our students. We need to track the success of our students after graduation and follow us through so we can consistently be improving the district and what we offer the community.
Andy?
So I'd like to see us continue to find ways to engage the community in a similar theme. I think over the last few months we've seen additional emphasis from the district with newsletters, print materials, et cetera, and I think it's great. I think as board members, we we personally have to continue to reach out to people, engage them. We may have to pick up the phone and say, hey, will you serve on this committee? I think you'd be really good at it. Because I think that's what it takes in today's day and age. If we post something or send someone an email, they may not respond. So we've got to really make that an emphasis as board members to engage the community. Thinking about the survey we did for the bond issue, what would happen if we did a survey just to really get a gauge of where everybody's at in the district, issues that they think are important. I think stuff like that would be great to do on an annual basis, to take a survey of all the constituents and see what their feedback is for that current year.
Justin?
So I'm not sure if this is technically a change, but one of the first things I would like to do is to delve deeper into the special services area. This topic is very near and dear to my heart, as I have many relatives and close friends that are currently utilizing this service or have in the past. I also have had the opportunity to speak with many individuals that either have kids currently using the service or are involved with this program in one way or the other. There seems to be some disconnect between what I hear from the various parties about the successfulness or effectiveness of the program as it currently stands. However, this could just be a communication issue that we need to get cleared up. So in keeping with our vision of every student from the previous question, I think we owe it to all parties involved to perform a deeper investigation into this area.
Mark?
I start.
Yeah.
I start with the question, then I.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Next question. And we're starting with Rick. How would you prioritize budget requests put forward to improve curriculum in classrooms, building facilities, technology or staff issues? What factors would impact your decision making, and how would you determine priorities?
Well, first and foremost, school boards should look out for students. Education isn't a line item, it's the only item. We have to ensure that students get the most out of the tax dollars that we spend on education. So I would rate them curriculum, staff raises, facilities, and technology. The reason behind that is curriculum, we have to be teaching relevant courseware to our students to prepare them for life. Staff raises, our teachers and staff are one of the best in the area. We have to continue to bridge that salary gap to retain the teachers and staff we have and be competitive enough to attract new talent. Facilities, we only spend around 18 cents on the dollar to maintain our facilities. So that's something that we need to focus on. And then technology. 20 years ago, this wasn't an issue. As technology evolves, we have to incorporate it into our teaching.
Okay. Andy?
So as we've talked about in previous questions, we've really got to understand the facts and circumstances of each request. I think one of the things that I would like to better understand and utilize is some comparative data to see how our school spends compared to other districts as far as those items that you listed. We may be under budgeted or over budgeted, comparatively speaking, when we look at those. So I think that would be helpful. I think obviously the staff is very important, and I kind of look at this as a business. The curriculum is somewhat the tools that we use. The staff, they're the most important asset. I think the end product is the education we give students. So all of those without one without the other is not going to work. We've got to have good facilities as well and maintain those. So to me, they're all important, and we just have to figure out what we can do going forward.
Justin?
So I'm going to focus on the budget request in general part of this question. And being that I am not involved in the school district as of yet, I'm going to relate this to how we handle it in the DoD and the way we do our budget requests and prioritizations. For budget requests, which we also call disconnects, we will have all agencies submit us a 1 to N list, basically your most dear to your least dear of your request. We take those and we tier them into 3 categories, and then we rank each tier. And then after the rankings are done, we use multiple factors from current funding of each state to if it's a new program to if it's a critical need where airplanes won't fly if we don't get this thing filled. And so we get these in the critical tiers. But the problem we have is a lot of times there's not funding that comes with it. Many times we'll be given a program or a mission from Congress and no funding, or resources behind it. So in those instances, we play what's known by a lot of people as a shell game, where we got to take something down to fund these areas. And so that's kind of the way I look at it, is what we have to do in school district as well. As if we're going to want to increase one area, we've got to find an offset in another area, unless there's new funding that comes along the way.
Mark?
So again, in the world of sales, we talk about prioritizing by least effort and high impact. Back to our strengths as a district, our people, our community, and our teachers. I think we need to focus on equitable salaries for our teachers to ensure that like teachers are getting like pay. And we also need to look at our non-teacher staff. My understanding, our pay for paras is extremely low compared to other districts, and it's making it very hard for us to be competitive. So with our teachers and support staff being the ones that make the impact, we need to make sure we're prioritizing our money to put them in a position where they can succeed and we can be a competitive district. Again, we need to flow through money to classrooms to ensure that the curriculum is reaching the students and making an impact there as well. From there, it's just, again, seeing what the budget will sustain and prioritizing the need at the time.
Okay. Andy, what is your vision for technology in the classroom and preparing our students for a high-tech workforce?
So I think technology obviously is very important in our schools. Just as I actually used the word processor in junior high, moved on to a computer in high school and used the internet late high school and into college. So obviously we have to keep up with technology. I think we also can't lose sight of the fundamentals though. In my day-to-day job as a banker, I have to write letters, I have to send emails, I have to communicate with people effectively, I have to understand where they're coming from, those kind of things. And so technology is important, but it's just a way that we get the message across, we communicate with people, we solve tough problems, we can with technology, but again, fundamentally, we've got to make sure that the principles of education, reading, writing, math, all of those things are covered fundamentally along with that technology.
Okay. Justin?
So technology is a critical component of today's world. I would venture to say that almost all careers are utilizing some form of technology nowadays. Everything from construction to healthcare to even the farming industry. We need to ensure that we continue to bring technology into the classroom to allow our students not only learn, but to keep up with its ever-changing aspects. Technology can, however, be very expensive, so we need to make sure that we are being strategic and efficient with our implementation plan. In my current job, I'm actually a remote employee for the DoD based out of Dayton, Ohio. So I do everything virtually. I log into shared drives through a virtual system. I talk to instant messenger. So I'm using technology on a daily basis. So I can see how vital it is as you get on through out of school. It's amazing to see how far technology has come, and I can only imagine how far it will go from here.
Okay, Mark?
So when I was in college, the technology was called a typewriter and onion skin paper. Showing my age. So obviously it has evolved. Again, I've been in telecom sales for many years, and we've gone from dial-up modems to now we have data that's transmitted via cellular data technology through to your smartphone. So our technology seems to grow exponentially. As a district, it's important that we prepare our students to utilize that technology in the workforce. Again, I spend my days looking at spreadsheets, yes, communicating via email, messenger, multiple different channels. We need to ensure that technology is implemented in the schools in a manner that's also safe. I have experienced with my kids, though the technology is there, there's been concerns over the source and the ability for kids to get areas in technology that they shouldn't. So it's a balance. We want to make sure that we are providing them the tools and providing them the safety.
Rick?
Yeah, like I said in my earlier question, 20 years ago, this wasn't an issue. Now iPhone locks up, I hand it to my 11-year-old and he fixes it for me. So, my vision as a parent and Board of Education member is technological integration is no longer an option but a necessity. If students are to graduate with the skills needed to succeed in the 21st century, they must not only be exposed to but surrounded by new technology throughout their entire education. At the same time, we have to be wise and adhere to the fiscal responsibility that the patrons expect of us. So we have to be proactive on our planning of what technology we're going to use and then pick that technology and stick to it so we're not changing every 2 years trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Justin, on the district strategic plan, there are the goals to improve internal and external communication to ensure students, staff, parents, and community are aware of current district initiatives, programs, and opportunities that support student personal growth and academic achievement. What ideas do you have to enhance our communication efforts?
Well, for starters, like I mentioned in an earlier question, open two-way communication is essential to any successful school district. Communication from the school district needs to be transparent and needs to be quick. We have to keep the community informed with the doings of the district as well as the decision-making of the board. One good avenue that's currently being utilized by the school district is the Facebook page. I get a lot of information from there, and I'm sure most of you do as well. We, the board and the school district, also need to be open and receptive of communication back to us from the community. By receptive, I mean we need to be willing to make changes to what we are doing based on feedback we are receiving. We cannot just, smile and nod when listening to patrons brief the board. Instead, we need to take what they say to heart and give it the due diligence it deserves. Even if for one reason or another we can't implement the requested changes, then we need to be quick and transparent with our responses back to the patrons.
Mark?
So again, keeping with my theme of communication, I applaud what the district has put in place to this point since the change of leadership in July. Again, I would seek to see if we cannot evolve our BOE meetings to more open forum opportunities. It's great that we're creating one-offs with what the board and Superintendent Bahati are looking at, but I, again, would encourage to look at what can we do to make more interaction with the board in that meeting. Also, it's intentional. So we need to, again, intentionally be engaged, listening to what the community and what parents have to say to us. Again, as I believe Andy has said, as far as whether it's taking phone calls, emails, and responding to them. So our constituents understand what we're thinking.
Rick?
So some of my ideas are already being implemented. As Mark said, the board approved full-time communications director and a full-time staff member. We've started chew and chats with district and staff at the different schools to open that communication with our employees. Started a monthly e-newsletter to provide more information about the district. In November, we're going to start morning meetings. Thankfully, Mr. Joyce agreed to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and do that section. So the issue to me is that the community that I've talked with says the board is not receptive. They've said that we've already made up our mind and that we don't care what they have to say. As for me personally, that couldn't be further from the truth. I do care and I've heard the community. We need to work on removing that stigma and restore the community's faith and trust on the board.
Andy?
Well, I've said it a few times, but I think we have to continue to engage the community. Like I said, we may have to pick up the phone, send an email. We're going to have to continue to seek feedback and create communication sometimes. Unfortunately, we may have to create it. So during the campaign, I've engaged many folks, have received direct feedback from them regarding their thoughts on the district. And the one thing that I can say is that people truly care about our schools. So that's a good thing, right? And so we have that in common, and I think that's a great thing. We also, like I talked about before, make sure we're truly open to feedback, and also, we will work in best interest of the district as a whole. We can't say we're wanting feedback and then do nothing with it, and like some of these other guys have talked about, we at least have to respond. We have to provide some explanation as to, well, thanks for the feedback. Here's the plan for it, or here's what we have in place to potentially utilize it. And I think bottom line is we've got to have great customer service as board members as well as staff as well.
Okay. Mark, there are many issues the school board members hear. Most recently, the school district heard from patrons regarding transgender issues. How do you, as a board member, intend to be tolerant and without prejudice and respect the diverse points of view, even though you may personally disagree with them?
So, tolerance and prejudice, racism, whatever social hot button right now has no place in our schools. With that in mind, I do agree with our current procedure and process that we've put in place. I believe every student has the right to privacy, dignity, and respect. Tolerance is a two-way street. I was on the transgender task force for 6 months. I think those of us that participated, that after that 6 months, we walked out of that experience with a healthier respect and understanding. So I think it comes down to being willing to have conversations and being willing to look at different aspects, but also understand that we all have different world views. It's hard to sometimes get those to match up, and that's where it takes the conversation and the willingness to do the hard work to talk with each other.
Rick?
Okay, so for me, this issue wasn't being about tolerant or prejudice. It was a complete overreach of the federal government. As a board member, continue with the motto, every student, every day. That means every student, no matter what. Meaning that we evaluate situations as they arise and collectively as a board make the best decisions possible for the circumstances, whatever that may be. We need to find solutions that assist or accommodate every student.
Andy?
So we have to make sure that we listen well to those folks who we may not personally agree with, as we've talked about before. I think that's one of the most important jobs as a school board member. We must hear a variety of thoughts and opinions along the way and ensure that we're dealing with a sensitive issue effectively and continue to communicate with those folks. Like I said, even if we may not agree with them. We can't just assume that we have all the immediate answers or that we have solved the problem quickly as a board. I think really on tough issues, we've got to gather a lot of feedback, a lot of information, and work through those tough issues together. And so we must understand the facts thoroughly and make sure that we make a decision that's best for the district.
Justin?
Well, there are no doubtly going to be many, many topics that we will all not personally agree on. Sometimes we're going to have to agree to disagree, albeit in a respectful way. But at the end of the day, we have to remember that these are our kids that are under our care for a good portion of the day to be educated to the best of our abilities and their abilities. We need to be careful that we're not using our kids as political pawns and hot-button issues. They deserve better than that. But with all that said, however, there is no place for hate or prejudice in our school district or anywhere for that matter.
Okay, now we have some questions that have been submitted by the audience. And Mark, we'll start with you on this one. There are students that are intelligent and talented, but are not academic and do not plan to go to college. Are we doing enough to help them explore other ways to be successful after graduating from Derby?
So absolutely, that's where we need to be willing to say, even as parents, as educators, as a district, that yeah, college may not be the course for everybody. So we need to look to help them evaluate their life skills, their life interests, and ensure that we've given them a path, whether it's in, say, the trades or tech service or what have you. So yes, I think the schools, again, exponentially come quite a ways as far as looking at that alternative and not necessarily covering whole every student for every college. I mentioned earlier, I think we should look at possible apprenticeship programs where the students are actually out in the real world for a portion of their day of education is found in the real world. So I think we do have opportunity to enhance what we're doing. And by all means, we don't need to cubbyhole, but we need to help them explore what their strengths and interests are and help them parlay that into a career path.
Rick?
So to me, there's really three choices after high school graduation. The college route, the trades route, or the military route. I know I mentioned Tacoma, Washington earlier. They actually have a high school credit that if you're going to go to college, that's great. Where's your acceptance letter? If you're going to join the military, that's great. Where's your enlistment papers? If you're going to have a trade, that's great. Are you enrolled in school to be productive at that trade? I think we need to work with the community to bring the community in, because ultimately they're the ones that are taking our students and using them in the workforce to provide us services.
Andy?
So as I mentioned earlier, I think we've got to be good at blocking and tackling, so to speak, with the fundamentals of education. And I think students, especially as they're growing up in their first few years in education, those years are really important. So again, I think we need to make sure that is established. And obviously, as they get older, we find out, what strengths the kids have, like I talked about earlier. And I think the high school does do this, helps guide those students to a possible career path. And like I talked about earlier, it may not be college, it may not be a 4-year degree, but associate's degree or some type of certification. We've got to make sure we understand each student so that we can help guide them.
Justin?
So are we doing it now as a district? That I don't know, not being there yet with my own kids, but what we do need to focus on, and I mentioned it earlier, is ensuring that we are preparing people for life after high school, no matter what it is. I mean, we have to have the life skills being taught, how to balance the textbook, just everything, paying bills. We need to probably have tech training, maybe bring back some of that tech training into schools that used to be there. But there's other options besides college. There's going into the workforce, and there's like Rick said, there's military. So maybe offering some sort of skills assessment to help the students identify which path they want to take.
Okay. Justin, you get the next question first as well. What ideas do you have to attract and retain high-quality staff?
Right. Well, I think the idea that maybe a common theme is, having a better, pay system and benefit system. Maybe look at some incentives or find a way to offer a better incentive package, to keep the high quality staff that we have and maybe bring new ones here. I know that's the thing I've heard from some teachers and people on the outside that that's the one thing that kind of draws in here, as well as having nice classrooms and facilities to work in and having, updated technology is another thing that would probably attract people to our area.
Mark?
Could you repeat the question?
Sir. What ideas do you have to attract and retain high-quality staff?
So again, back to, I believe addressed earlier, as far as, I want to ensure that we have an equitable situation as far as compensation, not being critical of what we have in place, but, I keep relating things back to sales management. When the path is clear to who makes what, how, when you have visibility into the pay structure, it's simplified and it's easy to understand. I think that's what we need to ensure that we have in place as a district. So that way we can also, again, enhance the pay levels in areas that need enhancing. And then again, I'm concerned that we put a lot on our paras and support staff, not in a mean manner, but I mean just to make sure how things are going now. So I'm concerned. I've heard from several support staff members that we are not competitive in that area, and I know it's an area that we struggle with. So I think it's a matter of, we've got to address pay, but then we also need to see if there's value add within the community. And that's our strength, so we need to make sure that we're selling our community.
Rick?
Well, like I said, our teaching staff is really a team, and that's really why I think a lot of them stay around for less pay. I know teachers would probably work for praises instead of raises if it paid the bills, but let's face it, it doesn't. we need to bridge the gaps on pay, but I think our strength in that is the teamwork, and I've seen teachers stay late and help other teachers because they needed help, not because they were asked. So I think the salary structure needs to be looked at more and bridging the gap between other districts our size.
Andy?
So, as they've talked about, I think obviously pay has to be competitive. We have to know where we sit compared to other districts. I think that's really a fundamental thing. If you don't have competitive pay, even if you have good culture or good people to work with, it makes it tough. The next thing I do want to say, I think to attract talent, I think people want to work with other people that they respect and that they think are also, in this case, good educators or good at the job they do. I think people want to work under people that they can learn from. So I think creating a culture of learning and a culture of people really wanting to be invested in the schools, which I think is the case in Derby Public Schools. But so I think that is definitely something important. I think the last thing that we need to do is really figure out what does draw competitive talent. I don't know that I can tell you for sure. I think culture and pay is good, but maybe we need to ask people what draws them the most to a school district and figure that out for ourselves as a school district.
Okay. Andy, we'll start with you with this next question. Currently, we have a board member that has missed over 20% of meetings this year. Are you going to be able to make it to all the board meetings?
Justin reminded me what my wife is out there. As long as I'm physically able, yes, that would be the plan. If you could ask people that I've served with on other nonprofit boards and committees, I rarely miss unless somebody's sick or I'm sick. So, yeah.
Okay, Justin?
Well, I too, plan to be at all of them. Hopefully, my wife is not here, but she'll be watching this. So, I wouldn't have run if I didn't think I could make the, almost all of these meetings and be a contributing factor to the board.
Okay, Mark?
So again, yes, it's been, my wife and I have been attending meetings as it is for nearly a year and a half. Again, prior to any hot topic issues or any concerns, it was just we wanted to be involved. I go back to see a need, meet a need. You got to be involved to know what's going on. So, yeah, absolutely. Commitment's priority in our household as well. So, again, if I'm elected, I would honor that commitment.
Okay. Rick?
So here's where I freaked your wife's out. This morning I started at the high school at 8:30. I was back at the administration center at 3 o'clock for an hour and a half meeting, and now we're here tonight. That's not the unusual. So I'm fully committed. My wife supports me. I have an awesome support structure. So yeah, I'll be at every board meeting and everything else.
Okay. We'll start with you, Rick, on the next question. Is a candidate misrepresenting himself on some signs by saying he is being re-elected when in reality he was appointed by the board and not elected? Please comment on this.
Okay, so I am being re-elected because I hold a seat on the board now. So I don't think I'm misrepresenting myself. It's my sign. I'm not misrepresenting myself because I hold a seat on the board. So in November, I will be re-elected to be on the board.
Andy?
This has been an interesting process. I don't know that I really have any comment on that. One of my signs got modified over the weekend and changed my name to Randy, and I had Yoda on it. So I'm thinking it might have been one of these guys, but I don't know. Yeah,
I'm trying to be secretive. I don't have much to add as well. I mean, I I too have taken lost a few signs, but none of them have been altered yet to have any characters on them.
Brother Mark?
I have no qualms with it. I know Rick. He's an outstanding guy of high integrity, and it is an elected position that he's currently holding.
Next, I think, well, I guess we'll just start over with Andy. Question is, the phrase like teachers and get like teachers has been used. Maybe I misread that. Like teachers should get like pay has been used as a phrase. What does that mean to you as a candidate for the board?
Well, I think as I talked about earlier, competitive pay is very important. If we're not competitive with other school districts in the area, and those that other teachers could go to competitively, we're not going to be in the running to keep them here. So I think competitive pay is important. Again, I think we also have to try to retain people here with a great culture, which we have.
Justin?
So like teachers equals like pay. That's similar. I would look at that like the way we handle our appraisals with the DoD. If you perform well and you'll get this reward in the year, this incentive, this time off or money or what have you. And for similar people that would perform the same way would be able to for the same rewards. And so I would say the teachers that we have that are great performers, if they should be able to get the same benefits or incentives that of teachers of their equivalent status.
Mark?
So I'm probably the one that spurred this question on, but what I'm thinking is again, obviously everyone's situation is subjective as far as career, tenure, level of education, whatnot, as far as our teachers and staff. So obviously those are subjective issues or variables that have to be considered, but at the same time, it's all open record as far as our district finances and monies and whatnot, and you kind of look through there and you wonder, wow, why is this person so much higher than this person? So again, I guess I'm looking at do we have a formula in place that is equitable for our teachers, no matter, with consideration of those variables. I know we do, and I know we make effort to try and provide that, but I want assurances.
Rick?
Yeah, kind of along those same lines. I mean, we're not going to retain staff or get new staff to come to the district if we're not competitive. Unfortunately, I've had teachers call me and say, I can go get a job at the city that pays $15,000 a year more, and all I'm going to do is answer phones. I know teachers aren't in it for the money, but at the same time, they have to provide for their families. We do have processes in place as far as when teachers hire in, what their amounts are, what their pay salary structure is, and the same goes for our classified staff. So, if anybody that wrote that question wants to ask me after, I can get more information on that.
Okay. Justin, next question. There are a lot of social media comments about Pleasant View School. What is your stand on that? I hope you know what is being asked.
Yeah, I think I'm familiar a bit. I have to imagine this is going to be talking to the closure or possible closure of Pleasant View. So I'll answer from that angle. I wasn't involved in any sort of the analysis done on Pleasant View. I personally haven't, been to Pleasant View, but I can say that from talking with the individual in the committee, it seems to me that they did the due diligence. Was the communication fully, successful? It sounds like, from some of the people in the neighborhood, it may not have been. I'm not sure. I know there's some disagreements on how well they're communicated with, but I empathize a bit, because if my school in Park Hill was going to close, I would be pretty upset as well. But it seems to me that they've exhausted all the options, and that's probably unfortunately the route
left.
Mark?
So again, it's a question or a subject that has kind of many tentacles, and the answers have never been easy. I think as a whole, as a district, we can say closing a neighborhood school is probably never a positive. I understand that we want to make sure our facilities have equitable as far as quality and opportunity for the students in the facilities and for the teachers that are using them. But no, I'm not completely convinced at this point that closing Pleasant View is the best interest for that neighborhood and not in the best interest for West Derby. I'm concerned that there's some impacts as far as West Derby, and I understand we see a growth as far as along North Rock and east, but still West Derby is where Derby was established, and we need to ensure that we're considering that. But again, it's a hard question. Closing a neighborhood schools is what makes our district attractive.
Rick?
So when the first talks of closing Pleasant View came out, Save Derby Schools was created. They reached out to the board. The problem with Pleasant View is that with our maintenance that we haven't been doing to schools, there's a lot of things in that building that have to be completely replaced. We have a list of what those are and the cost of what those would cost. Personally, I think Pleasant View still serves a purpose in the district. There's a lot of Title I kids that go to that school that have special needs that they meet. And on the flip side of that, our other schools are equally as awesome. So I don't feel like those kids will be left behind. But I still think that Pleasant View does serve a purpose in the district.
Andy?
So, again, this is a tough issue. I know a lot of great people that served on the Process for Success Committee. They put a lot of time and effort in it, and so I know they vetted this thoroughly. I think the challenge with the whole thing is, again, like I talked about, trustworthy process and a transparent process. I think just the perception from the community, that's what has caused some of these perceived issues. So I think that is key in any decision we have, that the process is trusted 100%. We also, I think in general, have to do what's best for the school district. I know in the board meeting recently talked about the growth in the city, and I think that's part of the reason for the plans to open a new school in a different area. And so as a board, we've got to do what's best ultimately as well for the district as a whole.
Okay, Mark, you get the next question. Where do you stand on the amount of recess time and the length of time for lunches at elementary schools?
Great question. I hear at the elementary level it is a challenge to kind of ensure that the kids are moved through in a timely manner and in a productive manner. Little Johnny, make sure you eat all your food. My daughter's right in there with that group. So it is a challenge. So again, I think, we look at facilities. Do we have equitable facilities as far as where teachers, administrators, or principals have the ability to logistically handle the flow of traffic and ensure that the kids are get through in a timely manner? PE, same thing, as far as, do we have the facilities and everything needed to provide, basically it's a curriculum on an equitable basis per school. So I think it's something we need to continue to look at and address. I don't have the specifics of what each school does, so I'm not going to pretend to be a subject matter expert, but I do know it is a challenge. And I do have confidence in our principals at each school. I've met most every one of them, and we do have top-notch leadership there, so I know they are doing the best with what they have.
Rick?
So judging by the amount of food that comes home in my kids' school lunches, I'll say that they don't have enough time to get their lunch. But that being said, I've also seen my kids eat at home, so But I've heard from other parents that, my kid sits down, from parents that have gone to eat lunch with their kids. My kid sits down, and literally by the time they get their food, they have 10 minutes to eat their entire plate. So that goes back to the equitable facilities. Are we shoving kids into the cafeteria where we have to stand in line for 15 minutes before they actually get to sit down and eat their lunch? So there are things that need looked at as far as lunch times and recess. I mean, our elementary schools don't even have the same recess times based on different elementary schools. So I think we as a district need to work on that and align those so they match.
Andy?
Was this recess and lunchtime? Is that the question?
Yeah, but repeat it.
Okay.
Where do you
Sorry, I'm the
stand?
fourth guy.
Where do you stand on the amount of recess time and the length of time for lunches at elementary schools?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, what I thought was interesting, I think the younger kids at our school, I think they ate at like 10:45. I think that's right. It seems like brunch to me. But, they get used to it and it works. This is a subject that, I would be open to viewpoints from teacher staff on how we solve it. I don't know that I have the answer, but I think that's our job to be a good listener and try to find that answer. I know that it's a challenge for our kids to eat quickly, and my wife's smiling at me. And so we have to prod them along, so I know it can be an issue, but I'd definitely be open to feedback.
Justin?
Okay, so I think recess time should be consistent across the district. As far as lunch goes, I've literally seen my daughter sit at the table at my house 2 hours trying to eat a piece of pizza. So I'm not sure if we can give them enough time to eat. However, I do know that on late start days for sure, I don't even think my daughter's hungry by 10:45. I mean, she gets to school at 9 and 10:45, and so there's consistently, my kindergartner brings home almost her entire lunch, and she'll be like, well, I ate the fruit snacks. Well, I guess that's, and then she's starving and she gets home. So I do think it's something that we look at, but I'm not sure. I thought there was a procedure in place where if they need a little bit extra time, they can maybe, eat a little bit during the recess. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I do know that it seems to be a little bit on the short end.
Okay. Rick, next question. What is your stance on state assessment data and how or if it should be used to increase student achievement?
Don't care about it. Honestly, we need to judge our students off of each individual student's success. When you look at state assessments, all we're doing is grouping people together and then judging a school based off of the group data. What we don't capitalize on are the progress those students have made since they started in our education system. We have students that start kindergarten that can't feed themselves, they can't tie their shoes. So when they get to third grade and they score low on the state assessment, they can read, they can write. We need to capitalize on that and celebrate those as a district and not focus so much on state assessment scores.
Andy?
So I was, again, at a recent board meeting, and the curriculum coordinator talked about 2 or 3 different metrics that we look at, and I think state assessments was one of those. To me, state assessments are kind of a necessary evil. I don't think we can put all of our dependence on them, but as a parent, I know that when we move to Derby schools, what do people look at? They do look at state assessments and how we compare competitively, and we want to make sure our kids, when we're looking around at different school districts, it is something that we look at. So we have to consider it. It's not the sole thing that we use to judge our success, but it is important to many people, and I would say parents that are looking at possibly moving to Derby.
Justin?
So state assessments probably aren't going to go away. Unfortunately, it is what it is. They're like Andy said, we too look when we moved to Ohio, we looked at the different districts and decided, based on assessment scores, where should we live? And probably wasn't the right way to do it, but that's just kind of what you're molded to do. In the end, it's just a bunch of numbers lumped together, and myself, I was not the best test taker, so I know that can be a problem. There's anxiety with kids and tests, and so, it may not be an accurate representation. Kids learn differently and learn, in new ways, but we need to just ensure that we're being as successful as we can. State assessments or not, there's other ways to judge our successfulness as a school.
Mark?
So again, you'll get tired of me hearing this, but in sales, yeah, we often have meaningless, I should say meaningless, but peripheral data or parameters or matrix that sometimes aren't always relevant to the task or the chore or the goal of the organization. I do agree as far as state assessments will probably be something that doesn't go away, so we do need to have those on our radar. It does give optics to the district and how the district is doing, although some will obviously say, consider the vitality of that. I do think at the high school level, we're in the right direction as far as what we're doing with the ACT. Having our students take that every year to see that level of movement and improvement in their scores, because that is a reality. If they are taking a college path, that is something that does impact them. So state assessments, it's kind of a mixed bag.
Okay, this is our last question, and we'll start with Andy. How would you work to communicate district needs to our state elected officials?
Pick up the phone would be my answer, I would say. We have state elected officials in our community, in the area that we can, I would say probably communicate pretty easily. I'd say we could talk with them right now if we wanted to. Obviously we've got to do it in a diplomatic manner and understand the issues of our district. And if there's concern, I'm fairly certain that we can get a response and at least get an ear to talk to about an issue.
Justin?
Well, I too would, pick up the phone. You got to reach out. We got to contact them, and there's multiple ways to do it. We can call, we can email. You drive up there, probably not the best, but we just can't stop with one. So I can't send an email, and hope that solves the problem. We have to follow up. We got to get our answers and do it in a respectful way. But I do think it's there. We can do it. We just got to reach out and get it done.
Mark?
Well, I think absolutely, as a board member, we can be a conduit for the concerns of our administration, of our community, as far as our state elected officials. Phone calls are the most effective, but face-to-face is a good habit to get into. We do have one with us this evening. So, we do have members of the state legislature that are involved with our district. So again, it's a matter of bringing those concerns forward and it's been stated, having reasonable conversations, but also understanding that, you don't come at it at a driving force, but hey, I want to build a bridge. I want to understand what's you're thinking, what's going on in the state, help educate me so I can help come back to the district. Again, it's the theme I've been going on, communication. And our legislatures, at the end of the day, they have dynamics that we may not fully understand. So again, we need to make sure we're listening to them when we talk.
Rick?
So we do, our finance director is constantly in communications with the state legislature. We hold lunches here at the district to invite the state legislature down. We found that it works better when you have them all in a room and you can see their facial expressions when you ask them questions. So it's continuing to do that, continuing to bridge the gaps between Derby and Topeka as far as funding is concerned, and to ensure that the district's needs are being met for our students.
Okay, I've just been told that we will take one more question. And so we'll start with Justin. And the question is, how do you feel about the current initiative for healthy snacks in schools?
Well, I guess a healthy snack is better than no snack. So, Just kidding, but it's important. You know, childhood obesity really isn't, I guess, a joke. So we need to look at offering, you know, healthy options and making sure that they're readily available for our kids as they get hungry throughout the day.
Mark?
Yeah, I feel that's fairly straightforward. My wife and I, or my wife has me on a plan. Which is, it's good. You know, it's helped me improve my perspective and honestly health. So yeah, I think we can do to encourage kids. I want to make sure it's a balance. I will be honest, with the school system we were in Georgia, they had some donations, and you know, cucumbers were the snacks one day, and yeah, that's healthy, but you know, it didn't really excite the kids. So cucumbers are great on salads, but so no, we need to promote healthy habits.
Rick?
I can tell you, Mr. Hammond wants his snack machines back because the district made a lot of money on them. And I'm not sure if I'm qualified to speak on anything about healthiness, so I'll give it a shot. Yeah, I mean, it's important. I think we need to be careful not to limit what we serve. And then the kids, you know, at the end of the day are starving because they don't want to eat a cucumber. So ultimately, I think our food service does an excellent job in providing healthy snacks that our students like. And if anybody has suggestions, we're open to it.
Andy?
So I do think healthy snacks are important. I think the challenge is that oftentimes kids will find ways to either bring stuff or find other ways to eat unhealthy snacks, but I think having healthy stuff in front of them is okay. I'll end with that.
Okay. Well, I want to thank the board candidates for their thoughtful answers and for the community for your rapt attention and the questions you submitted.
All right. I think they deserve a little one. Of the Derby National Education Association, I do want to say thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedules to come and visit with the community members and some of the staff and leadership of Derby Public Schools. We appreciate that. I also have a few other thank yous, if I may just have a moment, because all of the volunteers this evening are members of DNEA and their teachers that worked a long day today, and they came and volunteered their time to filter through your questions. So I would like to say thank you to them as well. And then I'd also like to say, thank you to Dave for taking time to be our facilitator this evening. As always, you did an impeccable job, and we appreciate you very much. So. Our hope from this event that you will take this information to your circle of influence and you will share the things that you have learned so that we can do what's best for Derby Public Schools. And we thank you so much for taking time out of your schedules to come tonight as well. So thank you so much.
So just before we go, we got one more housekeeping to do. I'm going to make a motion to close the meeting if I can get a second. On the board member. All those approved, close the meeting. Thank you very much. Y'all have a good evening.